2018, a solo hiker named Daniel set out to explore a remote section of forest in northern Canada. He wasn't inexperienced. He had spent years trekking through national parks and wilderness areas, but this time he wanted something deeper, something untouched. He parked his truck at the edge of an unmarked trail and began his hike just before noon. The forest was quiet, too quiet, he later noted in his journal. No birds, no insects, just the crunch of his boots against the dirt path. About 3 hours in, Daniel realized something strange. The trees had started to change. They grew taller, thinner, and closer together, blocking out more sunlight. The deeper he went, the darker it became. Then he heard it. A faint whistling sound. At first, he assumed it was the wind passing through the branches. The air was still. The whistling didn't rise and fall like wind. It came in short, deliberate bursts. Almost like someone trying to mimic a bird, Daniel stopped walking. The sound stopped too. He called out, "Hello?" No response. He kept moving, but the whistling returned. This time closer. It echoed from somewhere ahead, then suddenly from behind him. The direction didn't make sense. He turned around quickly. Nothing, just trees. Then the whistling came again, right next to his ear. Daniel panicked and started walking faster. His pace turned into a jog, then a run. The forest seemed to stretch endlessly, the path disappearing beneath his feet. As dusk approached, he realized he was lost. His GPS had stopped working. The whistling hadn't stopped. Night fell quickly. Daniel set up a small camp, lighting a fire for safety. The whistling continued in the darkness, circling him. Sometimes it sounded distant. Sometimes it felt inches away. Then around midnight, something changed. The whistling turned into words. Faint, broken, but unmistakable. Daniel. He froze. It was his name. Agon from the trees. Daniel, come here. The voice sounded wrong. Like someone who had learned how to speak by listening, but didn't understand how humans actually talk. Daniel stayed by the fire all night, gripping his knife. In the morning, the forest was silent again. He packed up and walked in one direction for hours until he finally reached a road. When he got back to his truck, he noticed something chilling scratched into the dust on the window. Come back. Daniel never returned to that forest. To this day, he refuses to talk about what he believes was calling him. Asterisk Story 2, the campsite that wasn't empty in 2021. A group of 4 friends decided to go camping deep in the Appalachian wilderness. They wanted isolation. No crowds, no noise, just nature. After hiking nearly 6 miles into the woods, they found what looked like the perfect campsite. There was just one problem. Someone had already been there. A fire pit sat in the center, surrounded by logs arranged like seats. A torn tarp hung between 2 trees. Old cans and wrappers were scattered around, but they looked off too clean, like they had been placed there recently. Maybe someone left in a hurry, one of them said. They decided to stay anyway. As night fell, they built a fire and began sharing stories. Everything felt normal, until one of them, Jake, pointed out something strange. There are no bugs. Everyone went quiet, he was right. No mosquitoes, no crickets, nothing, just silence. Then they heard footsteps, slow, crunching footsteps coming from the woods. They all turned toward the sound. Hello? Someone called out. No answer. The footsteps stopped. They waited, then a voice from the darkness. Why are you here? The voice sounded human, but distant, like it was coming from deep underground. We're just camping, one of them replied. Silence, then the voice again. This is our place. The group exchanged uneasy looks. Sorry, we didn't know, Jake said quickly. We can leave in the morning. No response. They stayed up late, keeping the fire going. Eventually, exhaustion took over, and they went to sleep in their tents. At around 3 a.m., one of them woke up. He heard breathing heavy, slow breathing. Right outside his tent, he held his breath, listening. Then something brushed against the fabric. He slowly reached for his flashlight and turned it on. Nothing. But the breathing was still there. He unzipped the tent just a little and shined the light outside. That's when he saw it, footprints, dozens of them, circling the tents. But they weren't normal. They were too long, too narrow, almost stretched. He woke the others. They all saw it, and then they heard it again. That voice, this time, closer, angrier. You stayed. The group didn't wait. They grabbed what they could and ran, leaving behind their gear, their food, everything. As they ran through the forest in darkness, they heard something chasing them, not running, crawling. Fast. They didn't stop until they reached their car at sunrise. When they finally returned days later with park authorities, the campsite was gone. No fire pit, no tarp, no trash, nothing. Just untouched forest and no footprints. The Fire Lookout Tower. In 2015, a seasonal worker named Mark took a job as a fire lookout in a remote forest in the western United States. His job was simple: live alone in a tower for 3 months and watch for signs of wildfire. The tower stood miles away from the nearest road, surrounded by dense forest. At first, everything was peaceful. Mark enjoyed the solitude. He read books, wrote in his journal, and spent hours scanning the horizon. But about 2 weeks in, he noticed something strange. Every night at exactly 2:17 a.m., a light would appear in the forest below. It wasn't a flashlight. It wasn't flickering like a fire. It was steady white, and it moved slowly, weaving through the trees. Mark reported it over the radio, but no one else had seen it. Probably another lookout, they said. But Mark knew that wasn't true. He had the only tower in that area. The light kept appearing every night, always at 2:17. Always disappearing after about 10 minutes. Then one night it stopped. Mark felt relieved, till he heard footsteps on the tower stairs. Slow, heavy. Climbing, Mark froze. No one was supposed to be out there. He grabbed his radio. "Hello? Is someone here?" No answer. The footsteps continued. Steeper, steep. They reached the platform, then stopped. Mark stared at the door. There was no knock, no voice. Just silence. After a few minutes, he slowly opened the door. No one was there, but something was. A footprint burned into the wood. Still smoking, Mark backed away, heart pounding. That night, he didn't sleep. The next night, at 2:17 a.m., the light returned, but this time, it wasn't in the forest. It was at the base of the tower. Mark watched in horror as it began to climb up the stairs. Step by step, the light didn't illuminate anything. It was like the source itself was empty. When it reached the top, it stopped outside the door. Mark didn't move, didn't breathe then. Slowly, the handle began to turn. Mark ran, grabbed his essentials, and descended the emergency ladder on the side of the tower, not daring to look back. He hiked through the forest all night until he reached the nearest ranger station. When authorities returned to inspect the tower, they found nothing unusual, no footprints, no signs of entry. But inside on the wall, someone or something had carved a message: "I watch you too." Mark never went back, and the tower was decommissioned the following year.